Okay, now I've played with a lot of my colors. If there are some layers that just aren't holding up as well as the others, like this claw feels a little soft, but it's such an important one, I want to go to that, and I want to, even if I think the colors work well, I want to play with my levels. To kind of make the values work. I want to play with my color balance, see if I can help it pop a little bit. And one way to do that is to have your highlights go just a little bit warm. So a little on the warm side. Then have your shadows go a little bit on the cool side. That will help kind of round it out, especially if it's not the clearest. And then you can also use a filter. Now this is one we use very sparingly, but just on that layer, I'm going to go to Sharpen, and I'm going to go to the Smart Sharpen filter. And it will preview it here for me. And I have these settings way too high. But because that photo, that reference was just a little bit blurrier than the others. What this allows, because computers can't make up information, but what it allows is it tries to identify edges, and then it tries to increase the contrast between the pixels at edges. And if you do it too much, it looks really terrible, but that's looking pretty clean. And you can see how that really sharpens that up. So the difference will help it stand up to the textures of these scales and everything. Because this is a very different texture. I don't want to integrate the scales into this, because I want this to look very shell-like. All right. Now, of course, we're still working on multiple layers, so if you like that, then you need to do it to your other layers as well. But luckily, under filter, it will remember. So let's see if that did anything. So I'll zoom in so you can see the effect. That's the texture after, that was the texture before. So just tighten it up a little bit. If I want to apply it to this texture back here, I just go to filter and it will remember all my settings. And it will apply it underneath. Little finishing techniques. And of course, the more you zoom in, the more you'll see that you can fix. And that's why we're not trying to be perfectionist here. We're just trying to learn the skills required. All right, so now all that's left to do is to see if there's any additional reference that needs to be added in to help transition between elements. Often we'll have a transition that just isn't natural, doesn't look good, and we'll try to save it by working really hard with erasing and with some other techniques. But what we really need to do is just cut our losses and find another reference to help build it in. It's like what happened with me and the tower in the sky for the last project. I just had to cut my losses at a certain point. It was taking too much ingenuity to try to fix it, and that wasn't what it was called for. Okay, so that's looking pretty strong. I'm going to change the back of this a little bit. Let's change its shape. Remember, it's organic. I can do that. Smooth it out. Cut into it a little. Let the layer underneath be revealed a little bit more. And then I'm going to do a soft transition. Between. Oh, Remember, you can only go where you have content behind. Take that opacity down, and take it down one more time. Just hit it a little bit. Help bring some of those colors together. Okay. So the transition that just does not work for me is the back leg going into the shell. That just seems cut out and really forced. Work right there too. I'm going to burn it down a little. I'll use this opportunity. There's another tool which is underneath the burn tool. It's called the dodge tool, and it does just the opposite of burn. If you need to add highlights and brightness back into a reference, so if I want this to look more reflective again, I can use the dodge tool. But what I really need is a burn tool on this layer into the midtones and shadows that gives me more of a crease between those layers, like so. So that the claw really pops. And then I can go to the claw and I can dodge it so I have more of a highlight to help pop out from that edge. Now, these are very powerful tools. So again, you want to use them at low exposures. Nothing more than 30 in my experience. And we are not drawing on them. We are just emphasizing certain shadows and certain highlights to help bring out our anatomy. Okay. Yeah, so that looks stronger. So big difference with those. You know, from there, which looked very flat, to this, which looks a lot more dimensional and following that arm around. Okay, but back to this transition I don't like, right here. That's a case where I think I just need to bring in some more reference. And I can do it with my rocks, but I also found this weird acorn thing. And I really liked this part of it. It looks rocky and living at the same time. So I'm going to duplicate that out. It's at the right angle. And I want to put that on the back hip like that. But then I have to bring it down through the layers. See what makes sense. So maybe I don't need to bring it down, but I want to bring the leg on top of it. So I'll bring the leg up. All right, so now let me move it into place. Ah, beautiful. See, it just solves a lot of problems. And as quickly I'm going to clean it out. Its color is good, its texture is great, its lighting is helpful. I can use a little bit of that as kind of the back of the shell. So nothing beats just good reference choices. Even some of these hard edges I can make work with the rocks above. So the reason compositing is such a useful tool for a digital artist isn't because digital artists aren't able to create their own content. It's because it can help them come up with more creative solutions, more useful solutions. Than they would come up with on their own. So it's just like an artist being well versed in art history or design and just knowing what options there are, and then making informed decisions going from there. All right, now I need to take this layer and integrate it in by erasing it out. And then burning it a little. So now I take this layer, I burn its midtones, make it look like it's being shaded by this new transition, this new kind of rocky form. And I can even extend that burning to the reference itself. So its shadows feel consistently deep. Voila. All right, now just checking for other little transitions that can often be solved with just a good use of an eraser and shaping it correctly. And then I'll show you the secret tool. Always keeping the silhouette in mind too. Secret finishing tool, which is akin to how we used texture fills in the last project. We're going to use a tool called Clone Stamp for this project, just to make everything the way we want. So if there are areas that just aren't working well for you, I'm going to teach you what to do. Never fear. Just a little bit of the dodge tool there, brighten up just that edge of the shell so it kind of turns around. Maybe even a little bit in the shadows, because that shadow is getting pretty darn dark. And then lastly, this area, I'm going to burn the highlights because they don't feel like they should be that bright, especially around the head and in shadow like that. And then on the head itself, I need to make this pop a little bit, so I'm going to burn in a little bit around the horns so that the brightness of the horn comes out. And I think on this head, I could even stand to smart sharpen it once. And I still wish you could use tools while filters were processing, but you just have to be patient. And I'm seeing all the other areas I can work on. All right. Burn in a little bit here on the lips, around the eye, going into the other areas. All right. So that looks pretty good. And it looks good with multiple backgrounds. But when I see it on gray here, I see, oh, there's some areas in the mouth that need work. So what do I do now? Well, I save it before this next step. And what I'm going to do is turn off all my backgrounds, just so I can see it clearly on blank pixels. So my sketch is turned off, everything is turned off. I'm going to go to the very top layer, select the very, very top layer, which happens to be a tooth. And what I'm going to do then is add a layer. And I'm going to label it by double-clicking on layer, the layer title, all capitals Clone Stamp, because this is a special finishing layer. And I'm going to right-click around the eye and make it red. So I know that this layer is different than the others. This is my finishing Clone Stamp layer. And this next video, I'm going to show you how I use it